Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Printerverse at Print 18. I am Deborah Korn, your intergalactic ambassador and your flight attendant for this, I almost said podcast, I've lost my mind, for this panel. This topic is so important to me personally. I believe that printers really have to start literally thinking out of the box at what they do and reinvent what they sell. And in order to do that, you have to figure out how to productize versus keeping in the commoditized level playing field, because in that field, you're with everybody else. But when you have a product, you're with fewer people, sometimes no other people. So with that being said, and by the way, we have a last minute and wonderful addition to this panel. Pat McGrew from KeyPoint Intelligence was able to join us. Her logo is not up on the screen because we weren't sure if she could make it, but luckily you did. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Always.
Let's start with you, Eric Holdo, 30,000-foot view, and we'll take the mics out to, it'll be easier, and the sound guy likes that better.
Got it.
Okay, so who are you, what do you do, and how does Konica Minolta help print business grow, to keep on the theme of the show?
So my name is Eric Holdo. I'm the Vice President of the Graphic Communications and Industrial Print line of business for Konica Minolta. Very, very long title. But essentially I work on strategy of what we do. I've got technical analysts and teams behind me that make me look smart, but they're actually the really smart guys. What I try and do is I try and look and work with our clients, with our commercial print clients, into the future and how our products can fit in their environments and what else we need to add around them to make them fit even better. So as an example of that, several years ago actually, we started doing lean-based assessments doing looking at lean manufacturing as a basis, not to do consulting for lean, but actually to use the tools like value stream mapping and things like that. And the story very quickly evolved into making a recommendation that this was a letter shop. They had one big customer that was 60% of their business for a very long time, and they were worried about losing that business. They said, all we're doing is printing PDF. As we looked at the overall workflow, we said, you know what, most of the problems that you have here happen to be in the revision of information and proper management of digital assets and all of that. And we ended up coming back with a package for them to be able to do digital asset management and the multi-channel marketing all in one package, so that the automotive companies could put the most recent versions of the trucks or logos or whatever on the website and share that information with the data companies. And now what they have built is not a set of services around this that not only has them locked in as the printer of choice, they own the platform.
Right.
So everybody's using their platform as part of this, and they're sending out 4 million emails a month, and they're spending zero to do it and making about $40,000 a month in revenue that they don't even have to do anything for.
It's incredible.
And it's a lock-in. They can't. Their customers can't move. So the interesting part is their business has grown with that one customer, but now because they're offering these other services to other companies, it's gone from 60% of their business to 30% of their business, even though it's a bigger chunk. So the entire chunk is far, far greater.
It's amazing. One of my favorite people to have on panels is Kevin Humana, whose
Hello.
name I've been practicing for 3 years. How am I today? Humana.
Pretty close.
Humana.
Pretty close.
Gumana.
You're getting there.
Gamanamana.
Few more years.
Humana. Well, Kevin is from Chili Publish. Kevin, how does Chili Publish help businesses grow?
In many ways. I mean, at Chili Publish, we've created a software for smart artwork and marketing material production, which we call a universal graphics engine. And that universal graphics engine basically helps two types of companies or people. Either companies who are trying to optimize their internal production workflow, so typically into packaging space or anything like that, to basically automate that. Or we have companies who try to put a portal out there with a niche product. And one of them is actually, you met him last year at our event. His name is Mike. They're a company called Life Art, and they actually do coffins, personalized coffins.
I was
And
just talking about this guy today, as a matter
yeah,
of fact.
I mean, you might be laughing, but it's a huge
he
business.
does
I mean,
digital printed coffins.
yeah,
So
it's
you can have whatever you want
it's
on it.
amazing because they actually have a patent a cardboard thing that they produce, which is actually much cheaper to produce the coffins than in wood. But not only that, they don't need as much storage as a traditional coffin builder. So it's quite amazing. Anyway,
It is,
being
yeah.
said that we help people like that
Right.
as well, and what we help there is be part of their e-commerce platform, because they really want to cut out the middleman, because there's a lot of money going to different people in the funeral business. Just to tell you that we're kind of in these in these different worlds, the different places, but
Right.
but the criteria is always we want to personalize something, and we call it izations, personalization, translation, localization. It doesn't matter if you're a marketing agency trying to put up a platform, if you're a commercial printer doing a web to print, or maybe something a little bit more advanced than that, or if you're in the pre-media space, or if you're a coffin producer and you want to allow people to put Jimi Hendrix on their coffin, which
Right.
actually happens. I
Right.
swear to God, it happens.
And there's no better example of a print product than a coffin. Who would think that a coffin could be a printed product?
And it's huge.
Let
I
me tell
mean-
you something. If I wanted to go in the ground, I would have a printed coffin. Don't worry, Mom. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. Morton.
Is it going to involve aliens?
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably.
Okay.
Morton, you wear a couple of hats. You help print businesses grow in several ways. Please discuss them all, as well as I'd like to thank you for being the official broadcast partner of the Printiverse. Morton's team is here not only directing and broadcasting the panels here, but also walking the show floor to create a record of what is going on beyond these walls. And you can see it after on inkish.tv, I'm assuming, when it comes out. Morton?
Yeah. We try to, my name is Morten, as Deborah says. I'm out of Denmark, so I always try to say that first, because that is kind of making an excuse for not speaking proper English. So that's it. Inkish is an online TV channel for the printing industry. We got started 4 years ago. We have the goal was actually to help the printing industry. So we don't talk so much about machines. We don't talk so much about what they can accomplish. But what we do is try to talk about what how they can help from a business perspective. We talk to interesting people from the industry. We have been talking several times to Kevin, and several times to Deborah, and several times to Pat McGrew. Yeah, that's Kevin, that's Pat. So what we do is that we believe that successful companies, if they can share their stories and how they achieve success, other printers can learn from that as well. And we have, over the 4 years we have existed, we have made 347 films now. We have talked to more than 500 people in the industry globally, from Japan to South America to India, Middle East, US, of course, and Europe. We have 130,000 viewers, and some of the films are not so popular, some is quite popular, and we don't care. We don't sell advertising. Basically, we consider ourselves as storytellers. So if you have a good story, we tell the story. If you want to have a commercial value of it, you have to bring it to your commercial potential yourself. And I think that is why we are not very rich.
Welcome to my world.
So, for me personally, it's like the printing industry is a very interesting industry, because actually, if you look at the margins made in the printing industry, actually, if you look at from the growth, the revenue potential is actually quite good. The problem is that we are not very efficient, and the other problem is that we have a decreasing market, and the cost base keeps growing, also because of Kevin. He would probably disagree with me on that one, but I'm just saying that if you look at printing companies like 30 years ago, if you had like a 30, 40 person company, I guess that maybe 60, 70% of your employees were working in production. If you have a 30, 40 person company today, I guess that 60, 70% is working in administration and pre-press, and so that challenges the industry a lot. So therefore, I think there's a huge need for exchanging experience and inspiring each other, and that's what we try to do.
Thank you so much. Pat McGrew, how does KeyPoint Intelligence / InfoTrends help business grow?
So the title of the session is Productizing Print for Profit. So KeyPoint actually tries to help do that through several different avenues. There is a group within KeyPoint Intelligence who are responsible for tracking all the hardware installations worldwide and understanding how many toner machines and how many inkjet machines, and providing valuable data to vendors so that they can understand how to bring new things to market. Then there's the other half of the company, of the other half of InfoTrends, which is more involved in this, productizing and helping print service providers. So we have a group that helps train print service providers to sell better. We have some who are helping provide content out to vendors for their blogs and their webinars and their web pages. But then also helping print service providers do those same things. And then we've got a group that does workflow. And in the workflow space, we're trying to help make workflows safer for print, right? You've got a workflow. You can be the most fabulous printer in the world, but if your workflow is not optimized, you can be flushing a lot of money down the toilet, and what printer can afford that?
Right.
So the workflow group works very hard to help customers understand what their opportunities are.
Thanks so much, everybody. So the idea of productization is not new, but it does require some strategic thinking. And just so we're all on the same page, a very simple example of a printed product is a photo book, right? It's just ink on paper, but put together, it's a product. It's something that can be sold in a different manner. Some print products have actually made it on Shark Tank. The Groove photo book that came up with this cool binding, and also the Love Pop greeting cards that use the laser die cutting are two examples. But my question is the productizing of print a marketing conversation, or is it an execution conversation? And is the print industry equipped to think like product developers? I mean, the printers, you guys are product developers, but how do we train them or talk to them or inspire them to become what I'm going to start calling print product engineers instead of print salespeople? You can contemplate and then, okay, Pat?
Maybe some of you are old enough to remember the old Apple commercials. Hire me and I'll tell you. No? That's what I'm saying to you. It's an art form. The problem is that most printers are worried about bottom line, right? They have to make a certain level of profit to make their rent, to pay their equipment fees, to pay the leases, the maintenance on the software. So they get driven by making that monthly nut and getting their payroll covered, their taxes covered. And so everybody who walks in the door, every customer they talk to, it's all about what can I get out of them. So now what we want to do is we want to ask them to change their mindset, and that's a big ask. We're asking them to become product developers, and they have to become
Print product
developers.
engineers. I'm coining the
Okay,
phrase.
print product engineers. I can live with that one.
Okay.
Let me tell you why I have a little bit of conflict with that. So engineering has a certain connotation.
Okay, we can discuss that later. Let's
Right.
stay on the
So
topic.
I,
here.
I think that building, but I'm all with you on products. I think that everything that goes out of the shop ought to be considered a product. It ought to have a product development plan. It ought to have a cost of goods sold associated with it. It ought to have a methodology associated with it, and it ought to be held in an accounting bucket so that you know each product that you're selling, what you're earning on it. And very few printers can tell you that.
Right. Kevin, you have a lot of conversations about this, I could imagine.
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't know if you got a chance to see Seth Godin this morning. He had a very good presentation this morning
I
here.
did not.
And one of the things he said is you know, a lot of the printers are having conversations around pricing. And the reason why they're having that is because, first of all, the product that they're offering is not very unique. And then the only story you have to tell is immediately price. So by already productizing something and by trying to find a niche or a unique product, you can set the price, and the price is not part of the discussion.
Right.
The discussion is actually the product that you're trying to sell. And he probably said it even much better than I did this morning, which, by the way, if you ever get a chance, go see how he thinks about print and the importance of it. And it's the same thing that we see. We've been telling agencies for a while that they got to switch the way that they're working. For example, you know, they're selling their hours and they keep on doing manual labor over and over. We call it core, create once, repurpose everywhere. And I like the idea of the engineering, print product engineering. I think they should teach that at school, just like they should teach today in a print school how manual labor is not the way forward, but is how can I think in an abstract form? How can I create, for example, templates? How can I reuse something over and over? And it just continues in productizing. I mean, somehow templatizing something and doing it smarter and better, hopefully, you know, is also a product, and it's something that becomes sellable. And again, you set the price. You don't get the price dictated by the market, and your story is just much better. And you can become a real storyteller, like Inkish TV.
Inkish, and then we'll go to Eric.
To answer your question, Deborah, I actually think that most printers that I have met, at least, are not very good at productizing. And as Pat said, it's of course they have to have the revenue, but I think it's also about legacy. Also referring to what Seth Godin said in his keynote this morning, the printing industry has more than 500 years of legacy, where the way that we have been operating, there's been a demand in the market. The demand has created some requests for proposals, and that has given us business, basically. And just imagine that it's less than 30, 40 years ago, print was the premier communication form if you wanted to mass communicate in any way. So from that perspective, we have 500 years of bad habits that has to be changed now.
Yeah.
And that is an issue. And I actually like to think of, if you think of the mailman, I know that is also a dying race, but if you look at the mailman, he is carrying in the post boxes, he's carrying a lot of different products. The service itself is the same. I mean, you have a sender and then you have a receiver, but the price for the distribution depends on whether it's a direct mail or it's a postcard or it's a newspaper or a magazine or a package, but the basic service is the same. If you look at the printing industry, we are in a very much the same way, because if we look at a 40-inch sheet going through our offset press, the price per sheet is very different whether it's a business card or it's a mass-produced magazine, though the technologies are more or less the same. So when we talk about productization of the printing industry, I think that we need to, again, understand that from a printer's perspective, they are a provider of service. I don't think they have the abilities and the skills right out of the box.
So you think the marketers have to come up with the products and the printers have to execute them?
I mean, there's a lot of examples on this one. I think that what Kevin mentioned about the coffin maker that I also met last year is an amazing example on how he doesn't think of himself as a printer, I guess.
No, he's
an undertaker.
Right.
And I'm just saying that the problem is that if the printing industry do not find ways of actually innovating their service and products, we end up being the commoditized producers. We become China, basically, right? We are not adding any value. We are just delivering paper with print on. And that is a big challenge for the printing industry. And the people that have actually coped with it is I think is two directions. Is the really focused commodity printers that do commodity big scale, large volume, and can survive on a margin.
Right.
And then there's the specialty printers like letterpress printers, printers who really into fine art and things like that. And the rest of us in the middle, we are in big troubles.
Eric.
So when I think of productizing, I think about taking printed form and then adding to it substantially, not just giving it a new name. I mean, if I bind it into a book, it's still a book. It's still a commodity product at that point. I think where productizing comes in, and part of it can be done by the printer, and part of it needs to be done by the marketing type entities or the brand owners, specifically the demand generators are the ones who are going to bring that in. And you got to work with the demand generators, and if you're a printer and you're not meeting with brand owners, you're not meeting with demand generators, you have a problem because you're on the commodity side of the game. What I will say is I think substrates are the first and easiest area for a printer to come into creating new product. New exciting substrates, possibly installations, possibly point of sale materials, things that are different than we've always seen, that can run through the conventional devices that they may currently have. That's a starting point where you can do it at a very low cost of entry. But when you start getting beyond that, things like augmented reality in creation with the label or the package or what have you, and having an experience that I can engage with that's different in each city, state, wherever that I might be engaging with it, that's something that creates a product. But it does require some outside help, right? So the printer has to trust the vendors. They have to trust some people and come out with the idea. I think everyone's got the ideas. They just don't know how to execute them.
I mean, an example I gave the other day was for printers to take a couple of, let's call them high volume clients that they've been with for a while, and put down all the job tickets for last year. What did they print? And what could I put together, and what comes up all the time, and what could I make something that all they have to, like a new employee package, for example. If a new employee needs 7 pieces of print all the time, why can't I just sell that as a package that another printer would have to bid out to all those people? Of course, based on the equipment you have in your shop. You can
or equipment you're willing to acquire,
or a partner on.
But
it's not impossible to start to look at how do I tackle this. You don't have to come out and say, I'm a printer and I need to build an iPhone. You could be a printer and just say, I'm going to be able to go to my customer and say, you only have to buy print from me 3 times a year because I've created this elite customer program. That's a product.
So, Deb, that is a product, and it's one of the reasons I think that putting it in the hands of printers who can lay all those job tickets down on the floor and can see everything that's been done for the whole year and understand what customers they're currently serving, I think that it is in their hands to make decisions about what products they're willing to offer, and then they can use the tools that they have or tools they're willing to acquire or partner for.
Yeah, I mean, in many cases, creating a new product is going to require new machines, new devices. It might be in finishing, it might be in whatever.
It doesn't have to, Eric.
It
They're already printing their stuff. I'm just saying.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, though, a lot of that can be farmed out to somebody who's a trade-based bindery, for example, or something like that, while they're building their volume. We see that happening all the time with our embellishment and decorative print products, and it's one of the easiest ways that we've seen printers upsell is they do the same job they've been doing forever, and then they take one and they embellish it, they put foil, they do dimensional varnish, and they add that into the box and say, by the way, you could be doing this as well. And it triggers something in them that, wow, this is totally different. And now they lock in that client.
Yes, but you just said it. That's an upsell. That's not a product. That's just your same commodity thing with a great finish on it, unless you turn that into a keepsake instead of a piece of print. Kevin?
Yeah, I think first of all you gotta care, and as a printer I think you gotta care to actually productize stuff because a lot of the printers that I see are used of doing things a certain way. I know an example of a partner of ours or customer who does a lot of point of sales material, and they were doing these. They print these shelves where they put the bottles of waters or bottles of Coke in stores. But they found out that it took a lot of time to set up these little shelves. So they actually re-engineered the system to set up the shelf, and with one movement, the entire shelf pops up. It was huge. They managed to all of a sudden to increase the same price, same product, didn't require new machines, just required a bit of engineering, but it's somebody that cares. It's somebody that cares to innovate. And if you look at it, professional investors, why do they invest in a company? It's not because of what they're doing or what they're going to do, but it's the fact that they've proven that they can adjust to change and that they care to reinvent themselves. And I think that's what a printer needs to do. A printer needs to dare to reinvent what he's doing. And I agree with looking at the job tickets, but it needs to be a constant thinking, how can I exceed myself? And if you don't exceed yourself, you're just going to sell a commodity, and you're going to be talking about pricing. You're going to be talking about volume and pricing, volume and pricing.
And I mean, this is the moment. This is the moment that we're going to start really thinning out the crowd. I really believe that.
The M&As will happen. Huh?
There will be the people who, there's always going to be people that just want ink on paper, and that is fine. I'm not saying anything bad about that. But we don't need 9,000 printers doing the same thing, and the market will speak for itself, and it's going to go down for those people to the lowest price, the fastest they can get it, and all the stuff that printers sell on. But you said something before that was very interesting. If it's a product, either I want it or I don't want it. Either I need it or I don't need it. And if I decide that I want it and I decide that I need it, then I could start making sourcing decisions, but at least I'm not talking about ink on paper anymore. Now I'm talking about the product. The solution
for a problem.
That's a better way of thinking of it. Morton, comment, and then I think Jamie might have a question. No? Yes? No? Okay.
I said that I think that printers are not really good at productization, but actually there's a few examples that are very good. I don't know if you know about the British company called Moo.com. Mm-hmm. Moo.com is a fantastic printing company. It's about 160 or 170 people working there, and the only product they do is business cards. So when you have like huge offset presses, huge digital presses, and you use that to actually print maybe the most obsolete product in the printing industry, sell it at a premium price, and what they do, they just do gorgeous packaging for the products that you buy. They ship premium. Everything is just in the upper level of what you can achieve. And people are just crazy about it. They just keep buying from there. And they develop new services, new products around business card. So, of course, there's also printers able to productize on even a very, very simple commoditized product. But it's not a lot of people that are doing it.
Jamie, did you have a comment or a question?
What I think is like more productizing is trying to make your customer sticky. They want you coming back to them. I think maybe Eric talked about it. It's look at those jobs and find out the ways, find out their story, and how they're going to keep them coming back, and just tweak it a little and make it you, and make them they know you. So I'm listening. It all sounds great, but I don't know the question.
So Jamie, one thing about that though is that instead of taking all the job tickets from the customers you currently have, take all the job tickets from the customers you've lost for the last year.
Right, there you go.
And figure out who decided you weren't the partner that you really
Great
wanted
idea.
them to be, because that's going to give you an interesting path to identifying what your next product set should look like.
That's great advice. We actually, I believe, ran out of time. It's a very interesting conversation. This is a very big topic, and I really do appreciate the intent look on everybody's faces. Nobody went to the cell phones. I really appreciate that, because this is so important, and I just really appreciate your attention to this matter, and I hope you agree and you start thinking beyond ink and paper and what can you turn it into and what's in your own houses. Just look around and see the things that you gravitate to and how you can help create not just a connection with your customers, but help them create an emotional connection with theirs. So thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. And we will be back in 15 minutes with a panel about finishing, very topical.